This happened around 5 years ago. I was working in a pretty decent hotel as a bartender, and a part of our job description was to deliver room service to people or complimentary drinks food that the reception asked us to deliver. One night, I got an order to the fourth floor through the reception. Now, it's important that it was the fourth floor because that was the only floor in the hotel that had no windows to the outside in the end of the hallways, or anywhere for that matter. It was also the cheapest floor and it was not renovated in years, to a point that there were boot marks on the walls, ceiling, and patches of paint hanging from the ceiling as well. Other floors were well maintained. I don't know why that was the case. Anyway, on the end of the hallway, instead of a window, was a huge mirror almost the size of the entire hallway, which gave the illusion of an infinite corridor with the mirrors being on both sides of the hall. Halfway through the hallway, in both directions, were fire doors that were held by electromagnets from what I can tell. So there I go up to the fourth floor at the end of the hallway where the room I needed to go was. As I approached the room, I could hear people talking faintly because the door was open and the light was spilling into the hallway. As I got closer, the talking stopped, and now I could only hear the static noise of a TV. I knocked on the open door and said, "Room service," but no one responded. I slowly walked into the room, knocking again. But as I got inside, I realized the room was empty. At this point, I'm creeped out by the empty room, static TV, and the fourth floor in general. I quickly put the drinks on the table and left. As I was approaching the fire doors, the lights on the floor went out and the door slammed shut on me just as I was about to go through them. The lights went out only in the hallway because I could still see the light from the room and hear the TV static, which was getting louder and coming from all around. I felt the adrenaline rush to my body as I ran down the stairs and ran straight outside for a smoke. The fourth floor always creeped me out, but since that time I found ways not to go up there at night any longer. The floor itself got renovated about a year later and it became way less creepy, but I still have a weird feeling when I go up there. I have a story that will stick with me forever and bolster my curiosity. This took place back in 2010 when I was 16 years old. My two friends, my little brother and I, were living in a brand new neighborhood. My family moved into a full furnished model home and my friend lived in the next model home. There were only maybe 10 houses built in the entire neighborhood, living in very dark with limited lighting. But we still had a rather large park at the very end of our street. About a mile after the park was an elementary school that we would frequently walk to and hop the fence and play some basketball on the court. One night, my brother, my two friends and I decided to walk to the school. It was about 8 p.m. and already dark outside. We played some basketball and trekked back towards the park to go home. To set the scene, there was a very long and dark road from the school to the park with absolutely no lights, already setting a creepy vibe. When you first hit the park sidewalk, there sits a metal bench with one street lamp directly above it shining down. We got to the park's long and curvy sidewalk and stopped dead in our tracks. Keep in mind, our neighborhood was very secluded and we knew the faces and structures of everybody who lived there. Here we are at about 10 p.m. now, staring directly at the bench with the light beaming down on a dark figure. A lady, I presume, dressed in complete black with a hooded trench coat covering half of her face. She was crouched over, making it seem as she was older. No book, no cell phone, nothing. Just sitting there at the complete end of the night. She turned her face to us, but we still couldn't see her with all the shadowing. What happened next freaked us out. She turned back to face forward and slowly stood up straight, so damn slowly, and started walking kind of sideways towards us. We were still about 15 to 20 feet away from her. By this time, we still stood there stiffened, feet glued to the ground in complete shock with this eerie feeling consuming us. I remember thinking this shit is pulled straight out of a horror movie. She got about 5 to 7 feet away from us and turned directly towards us and her head still down and her face still covered. We ran. We ran for our lives all the way back to my house, panting, trying to catch our breath. We couldn't get a word out just yet. I remember having tears in my eyes with just the thought of a movement coming near us. We couldn't figure out why she was there. We finally calmed down and got some sleep. But it's not over yet. The next day, in the early afternoon, we got together again and we all walked down to that park to make sure that the coast was clear just for kicks, because it was pure daylight and we wouldn't be so frightened anymore even if the lady was there. You wouldn't believe what was on the same bench as that creepy lady was sitting on. A wild rabbit. A poor rabbit. We lived in Arizona and there were plenty of those hopping around. This rabbit was cut directly in half right down the middle. No blood was leaking from his body at all, as if it had been drained. But there were no decaying and it was a fresh kill. What was that hooded figure doing there? Was it even a human? It's been a decade and I still think about the story sometimes and get chills down my spine and a silly feeling in my stomach. What would she have done if she got any closer to us? I'm glad we won't ever know.